Yeah, welcome to another edition of the M365 FM podcast, where we talk about Microsoft topics around with MVPs, product experts, engineers, and community leaders shaping the future of Microsoft 365, AI, and modern work. Today, we are joined by someone who's been part of Microsoft collaboration journey for more than 20 years, from Skype for business to Microsoft Teams, and now AI-powered workplaces with Microsoft 365 Copilot. Josh Blalock is multiple Microsoft MVP for Teams and Microsoft 365 Copilot. Technology evangelist at Shure, create one of the expert things on YouTube channel and co-founder of the Comms vNext conference. Today we are exploring how has Teams evolved, why hardware becomes more important than ever, and how AI changing meetings and what every IT leader should know before investing in collaboration technology. Josh, welcome to the MC65 podcast.
Yeah, Mirko, thank you so much for having me. It's a pleasure to be here, and I'm looking. We have some cool topics to unfold today, so I'm excited to dive into it all with you.
Yeah, today we have not so much time, so can you tell us a little bit about your journey into Microsoft, in the Microsoft world, and how did you start with unified communications?
Yeah, I mean, my journey with the beginning of my career really was kind of chosen for me. I started out in the Air Force, the United States Air Force, and that was the job that they gave me was IT. Right, they're like, you're gonna do computers, you're gonna work on servers, and the first job assignment I got after my tech school training was to go and work on Exchange 5.5 servers. We're running email servers for the base that I was stationed at for a couple years. So I didn't really know much about it, but I knew what email was, and so I was like, okay, cool. Let's do Exchange 5.5. And at that point, Exchange 5.5 was actually pretty old. They were behind the times, so we went through some upgrades, and that's kind of where I got started on my Microsoft journey. And for a good, I don't know, 5, 10 years after that, I was kind of a Microsoft server technologies generalist. Active Directory, SharePoint. I did all the different uh, server technologies in that realm. ISA server, for those who remember ISA server. Um, but eventually, when they said, "Hey, here's this new thing. Let's try this. It's OCS 2007 R2. Go ahead and install that. Let's get it working alongside of our Exchange." And the company I was with at the time just threw it at me. And so once I did, and I saw how it started to bring everything together with chat, with calls, with all that, that fascinated me. Right? At that point, I was more interested in that than anything else I'd worked on. Everything else was more of a job to me. But unified communications was like, well, this is interesting. I actually find this to be fascinating. Let's dig deeper there. And so that kind of got me started back with OCS 2007 R2. And it kind of built from there. I still was a generalist for a while, but eventually some opportunities opened up for me to focus my day job on Link Server 2013. And that turned into Skype for Business server. And the story goes on from there.
Yeah, let's talk go short over the evolving from Skype Business to Microsoft Teams. What are you
Yeah.
missing from Skype to for business?
I think it's a very interesting and different world then, right? Because you had on-prem server technologies that were Skype for Business was the first time that you were starting to get cloud-based technologies because they had Skype for Business Online. And that was really where you started to have a lot of people migrating into the cloud and using Skype for Business Online. That's kind of where I was able to carve out my space in the Microsoft MVP community because I wrote a whole ebook on it was the hybrid handbook for migrating from Skype for Business on prem to online and all the capabilities and things that came with that. Um, and then Teams started to slide into that story, right? Migrating from Skype for Business Online into Teams or blending on-prem worlds into Teams. I think some of the things that I miss the most, and they still exist today, and there are still customers out there today on-prem still with Skype for Business instances, but You just don't see that very much, and you don't deal with that in the Microsoft Teams world too much. I think that's what I miss most is working with on-prem server technologies, actually seeing the components implement together. There were a lot of frustrating days back then, troubleshooting all the different network issues, but I liked that component. And now with everything being cloud based, it's cool, it's neat to do, but you feel as an engineer, right? As someone who came from an engineer background, you feel a little bit more hands off from the technology than you used to when it was actual physical servers and your own data centers, your own server rooms that you were managing. And I can't walk into a server room anymore and hit reset on that server, right? It's in the cloud. It is what it is. So that's probably what I missed most about the Skype for Business days versus all in the cloud with Microsoft Teams.
Yeah. One question. A lot of people are interesting in now in getting MVP. You are an MVP, and I think it's especially because Shure have started an MVP program. Can you tell me a little bit about the Shure MVP program? How did you become an MVP, and what role does the Shure Academy play in this?
I think the best way to unpack that is to start with my own journey there. And I actually had someone else that was an MVP. I used to work at a company called Rackspace a while back, and while there was Rackspace had acquired a SharePoint company that had a number of Microsoft MVPs working for it at the time. So suddenly Rackspace had all these Microsoft MVPs. They were SharePoint focused, and so I'd reached out to one of them, Todd Clint, and asked him, "Hey, I'm I'm interested in this path. What do I do? How do I start, becoming going down that path, possibly becoming an MVP, but how do you?" And he's just had great advice. He's like, "Look, Microsoft MVPs are measured in all these ways. It's about being an evangelist. It's about creating content and influencing people and sharing your knowledge. And this is the essence of the Microsoft MVP program, right? It's less about wanting it. It's more about finding what you're passionate about and the way that you like to share that information and sharing it and fostering that type of community. So he said, find something you like to do and then share it. And it was great advice from him, and I kinda took that and ran with it, and I started what everybody was doing at the time. I started blog, right? There wasn't a lot of videos happening. People weren't creating video content. There was a little bit of writing ebooks and things. There wasn't a lot of podcasting back at that point either. So I started doing the blogging thing for a while, and, the social media thing. Back then, Twitter was huge for the UC community, so we were on Twitter, we were doing it. I started doing those 2 things, and the blogging was okay, but to be honest, I decided I wasn't really passionate about it. I didn't love that medium for sharing my content, and so as doing videos was starting to become a thing that people were beginning to pay attention to on social media, I said, "You know what? I'm gonna go ahead and just turn the camera on one day, and I'm gonna start creating my own webcasts called the Skype for B Recap." And I ended up, and actually, you brought the cowboy hat when we first got on the call earlier. I was sitting there. I just gotten a cowboy hat from my wife for Christmas or a birthday or something, and I was looking at myself in the camera, right, and I'm like, "Oh my gosh, my hair! What is going on with my hair today?" So you know what? Nobody knows who I am. It's not going to hurt anything if I just throw this cowboy hat on. It'll be unique. It'll be different. I'll be that guy in a cowboy hat talking about technology. Why not? And so I did it, and it kind of stuck. It was my little personal brand for a while. But I discovered very quickly that even if I wasn't really great at it at the time, because you build your craft, you hone your skills, you get better at doing videos and podcasts over time. But even though I wasn't great at it right away, I enjoyed it. I was fascinated by creating videos. I thought it was a really cool way to share content. And I was passionate about that in addition to the technology. So that's what I started doing. I started sharing my content via video. And honestly, I think that with a few other things is what ultimately led to me being admitted into the MVP program, which took a while, right? Took a couple years of work and effort and building a following, building an audience, sharing your knowledge. and just finding your groove with it, finding what where your passion actually lied. So that's how I got into the MVP program. And that would be my advice to people looking to get into it too is hey, this is what it's all about. Sharing your knowledge, building community, and doing it in a way that you're passionate. So if that's your interest, that's my sage wisdom there for it. Now, the second half of that question you brought up, the Shure program, right? There's a brand new program that we launched at Shure called the Shure Ignition program. And currently, this is really mostly consisted of Microsoft MVPs themselves because the program itself is actually modeled very heavily after Microsoft's MVP program in terms of the way it operates, the way it's structured, its purpose, right? To go out and create evangelism about Shure products and solutions alongside the Microsoft Teams world. So I imagine this won't be our only program because we just made a really big play in the in the Zoom room space as well. So we'll probably have other programs that come to light. But for now, this program is very Microsoft Teams focused. And the point of it is to start small, start with some people that are already heavily evangelizing Microsoft Teams rooms specifically, because that's where Sure makes equipment, right? Is in Microsoft Teams rooms. And so we want people that are passionate about Teams rooms and are also passionate about telling the story about how Sure solutions enhance Teams rooms, build an amazing Copilot story for the organization that is realizing that value for the first time. And so it's a brand new program, just launched. It'll be an annual type of program, just like the Microsoft MVP program is. But the idea here is pretty soon we're probably going to start seeing some of the members from that program utilizing some of their cool, shiny new content creator gear to create some content about some of the solutions that you would expect to see in a conference room for sure. Our IntelliMix room kits, our soon to be released IntelliMix Bar Pro, the ceiling mics that are in all kinds of conference rooms across the globe. This is where we're going to see this group really shine.
Mm, yeah, please don't kill me for this question, but I think a lot of people know Shure for musicians, especially I
Yeah.
will say the biggest group are content creators. I think it's the most selling. The SMB7 is the most selling uh, podcast, a new videocast microphone. Um,
Right.
and now is it new that Shure creates especially hardware for yeah for con yeah con for
Yeah.
I don't know what's it's a new program or it's all
No,
time.
it's actually, and that's I think what surprises a lot of people, right? Is that they're like, oh, is Sure's new to the collaboration space because we just launched last year. We just launched our IntelliMix room kits, right? Which are Windows based certified Teams room systems for every room size. And it's a modular approach because it's Windows based. But they think, oh, you just launched those. You're new to the space. But the reality is that Shure's MXA line of microphones and or like the MXA 902, which is a microphone and loudspeaker combo for the ceiling, the MXA line of audio devices is for conferencing, right? They're built for conferencing rooms, and the MXA line just hit its 10-year anniversary. So Shure has actually been creating audio solutions for conference rooms for 10 years. Now, we have not been building full room systems for that whole time. So when you see Shure's conferencing equipment in conferencing rooms, it's usually alongside one of our partners. We partner with Neat now. We partner with Logitech. We partner with all these other manufacturers that have room solutions. When they would get to large, complex spaces where audio was very challenging, or auditoriums where it was particularly challenging for a traditional room system, they would turn to Shure and say, "We need to add your audio equipment with all the complexity that you solve for with your DSPs and all the auto mixing you do. We need to add that to our room systems so that we can reach these bigger, more complex, high value spaces, expensive boardrooms, all of that." So that's where Shure has been in this space for a long time. But when it comes to building certified room systems, yes, that is relatively new. Our IntelliMix room kits just came out last year. And even then, we partnered with Hudley for the camera portions of those room systems. However, we announced at ISE this year the IntelliMix Bar Pro, an all-in-one form factor, Android-based, MDEP-based bar for large rooms that is coming out in just a month or two here. That is actually Shure's very first product with its own homegrown video capabilities and the bar. So that's very exciting. It's a very innovative approach to video, and we're very excited to see our portfolio in the collaboration space grow to where it's not just Windows-based room systems with a partner video solution. Shure has its own video solutions on the Android side now as well. And our portfolio, of course, is only going to grow over time. And that
Yeah,
ignition program is going to be a key component of telling that story, right?
yeah, it's cool. Uh, have you also a little short? There's this academy. Is also a role in this, or is it completely a different topic? The Shure
Sorry,
Academy.
sorry. What also a role in it? I misheard as I was setting my water down.
The Shure Academy have this also a role?
Yeah, so there's a lot of great content from Shure Academy out there in terms of learning audio capabilities. And I think over time and probably in this coming year, we're going to see we would likely see Shure Academy have more content or interaction with the collaboration side of the business, right? Because it is a newer segment. And Shure Academy has been largely focused on Shure's more traditional lines of business, which makes sense. The pro audio side, the content creator side, MXA even. But we're probably going to see more Shure Academy content and interactions and engagement with the community as it relates to conferencing capabilities in the coming year, I would imagine, right?
Yeah, before we really deep dive into hardware someone, there's a lot of, I say, content creators, community experts, and so on. And there, it's one thing they say. It's your audio. It's more important than your video. But the most people prove me wrong. They invest so much money in camera equipment and so on. Why has audio not this standing in like video, like the record video?
It's an interesting question because of the cycles that we've gone through over the years. When you think back to like the 1980s, right? Meeting rooms shifted from being just places where we sat down, had meetings, someone sat there taking notes and all that. They start introducing um, audio solutions to these rooms, speaker phones and different audio capabilities, and eventually some meeting room types of solutions, but they were very audio centric. And then as you get a little bit further into it, the late 80s into the 90s, video solutions start to become in focus. Oh, we can now do this. But they were very big, very expensive to implement and use. And then as we get into the 2000s, the 2010s, and as we approach COVID, a lot of these solutions start to become a lot more affordable, a lot easier, a lot simpler. And so people now are like, look, we can actually put video-based systems in way more rooms than our 5 expensive, high-profile boardrooms. We could put them in regular meeting rooms. This is great. And so there's been this focus on video for quite a while now, right? Because the audio piece feels like it's always been there. We can always hear people, at least for the last couple decades, the last few decades. So let's put this focus on video in more recent times. But you're absolutely right. In the midst of this focus on video, a lot of people lose sight of the fact that, look, if your video fails, it's okay. The meeting can still go on. You can still hear people with audio. If your audio fails, now you're done. Your meeting is over. You can't hear anything. You're not communicating anymore. And so that's a really big focus. The next chapter of this conversation, though, which is where I have a lot of passion right now, and I'm really excited about what this means as a Microsoft 365 Copilot MVP because of what Copilot is doing during meetings with agents like facilitator, interpreter, because of what Copilot is doing now during meetings, before meetings, and especially after meetings, where Copilot, you're asking Copilot, hey, I was part of a meeting. I want you to give me all the action items. I want you to give me this summary. I want you to build a document based on what happened in that meeting. Because of that, you now have to look at the audio in that meeting as a whole different thing. It's no longer just spoken words and audio. Now, audio is actually real time data that Copilot is going to use to do a whole bunch of stuff, to build documents, to create task lists, to send emails, to automate things with Copilot Cowork. This is all like, if you don't have ultra clear, highly reliable, 100% accuracy audio in those rooms, in every room, then you are now crippling Copilot. You are now telling Copilot it has to operate on a lesser level because it cannot fully know what happened in that meeting because your audio was good enough or okay. It wasn't the best audio. It wasn't the highest quality audio. People could understand it on the call, so it was good enough. But could Copilot understand it well? Well, maybe not super well. That's a problem because now these companies are starting to use that data to get more work done. And I think this is the quintessential shift that we find ourselves in as organizations to where businesses have to stop thinking about their spend in the meeting room as good enough. They now have to think about the fact that they are building the foundational layer for all the AI investment that they're making in the platform. Right? So I love that question because audio is coming full circle back around to where it is of the most importance in that space. And I don't want to say that video has no importance because I believe that as we move forward, Microsoft, Zoom, whoever that is running these platforms, they're going to increasingly use the video in those spaces for this data as well, right? I think that at some point I'm going to be able to ask Copilot or Coworker, what, hey, tell me, I know what Mirko said in the meeting, but what did Mirko look like? Did he look impressed by the conversation? Did he look annoyed at the conversation? Tell me how he was reacting to this in real time. That's video insights that we don't yet have. And I think that's going to be very important.
Yeah. I'm yeah. It's really good. I also worked for some years. Yeah, I say on a different part in the hearing aid industry. Uh,
Yeah.
but there, and I think for you it's a problem. It's more important. But different rooms or environments. I say you are on the street. It's loud. You are in the meeting room, and it's a small room, a big room, cathedral. I don't know that there
Yeah.
and with a lot of the, what role plays hardware uh, to get a good sound, and what plays I say software, especially AI, to get a good sound.
Yeah. I mean, so this is also a fantastic question as it relates to how it functions, right? Because a lot of when you think about conference rooms and the equipment we're putting in there, we have this is going in a little bit deeper into the weeds, but I'll try to keep it high level. On like our room kits, for example, on the compute for the room kits, or even on some of the devices like the ceiling microarrays, the MXA 902 and some other devices, they have onboard software based DSPs, digital signal processors. Now, previously, DSPs were separate physical devices, right? I want to buy all these ceiling microarrays, and now I've got to buy this physical DSP to connect all of them to. mix the audio, decide which mic is going to pick up which area of the room. It's really cool, specialized stuff. But previously, all that audio cleanup, the mixing, the deverb, the cleaning up of the sound before it gets sent back to the platform happened by a DSP. Now, with the DSP being software on board the systems, people don't have to buy the separate DSP. They don't have to run more cables. They don't have to configure it. It's automated on the device. So, in a Shure solution, if you are in a conference room and your coworker is sitting next to you with a bag of potato chips, crinkling the bat and chewing with their mouth wide open, making all kinds of terrible noises, clickety clacking on their keyboard really loud, the onboard software based DSP of the equipment is smart enough to say, that's not voices. I'm going to eliminate all of that. I'm going to clean up that audio and then I'm going to send it to the platform. And then the platform, Microsoft Teams in the cloud, says, I'm going to do what I do for all manufacturers. I'm going to look at the audio and try to make sure it's as clean as I can make it so that we can make transcripts and all that. The good news for Microsoft Teams in the cloud is that it doesn't have to do a lot of work because you've got Shure on this end doing what Shure has done best for over 100 years now, producing the best sounding, highest quality audio in the market before it's ever sent back for AI processing.
Mhm.
So that's kind of the role of the two. Microsoft Teams cloud based audio processing, audio cleanup is a lot more important for a lot of other hardware choices that maybe don't do as good a job at cleaning up the audio in the room before it gets sent on. But at the end of the day, when you're thinking, oh, that's great. Well, why do I need super great equipment in the room? Microsoft will just do it in the cloud. Microsoft does it to an extent, right? But this is not what their bread and butter has been for the last 100 years. Their professional area of expertise is not the audio processing and cleanup. That's something that they do on a high level, and they do a pretty decent job of getting it cleaned up for your transcripts. But ensuring that the audio is as clean as it can be before it ever gets to Microsoft is really the key to having the best data for your AI on the back end.
Yeah, the DSP is it's a really good topic, and I have a question. So it's like I don't know. We take a vacuum cleaner, and companies say, "Oh, this has 10,000 watts," and so on. DSP has uh, bits, so they process. But what is really important when a company think about buying conference hardware? It's like bits on DSP, or is it something different?
I mean, I think that when it comes to organizations making these decisions, that when it comes to the technical things that are being measured and all the technical specs, you can see a lot of manufacturers that tend to want to wade into the, well, this has this many watts or this many, they can really get down there and try to break that down. For organizations, what actually matters is, how does it actually sound? I At the end of the day, you can give me a list of really fancy specs for what you guys do, and sure, products do have a very nice list of fancy specs to go through. But I always like to say, look, I come from the consulting world. I come from the software based side of things. I come from a Microsoft centric ecosystem. What matters to every customer that I've ever talked to is what the experience actually is. How does it actually sound? When I'm in a meeting and I'm looking at the transcript that is riddled with errors after the meeting, am I do I feel better about that bad transcript because at least someone told me that it had these amazing specs when I bought it? No, I don't care about that. I care about the results. I care about how good does it sound? How clear is that audio? How accurate is my transcript actually going to be? And so what I encourage decision makers to do is explore a POC where you're curious. If you're like, look, I know that there's all these amazing specs. I'm hearing this from this manufacturer, and Shure is telling me this. Put it to the test. Put it in your environment. Stop worrying so much about what all the specs are that you're looking for. You know, when you talk to Shure, for example, right? You know what Shure's reputation is in the music industry and the content creation industry.
Mm,
You know they've been doing it for 100 years. That reputation speaks well, so take it for a test drive. The other manufacturer is making some great claims. Great, take that for a test drive. See how it performs in your actual collaboration scenarios, and then let the proof actually be what drives your decision making. Because at the end of the day, specs are specs. The actual experience doesn't always align with phenomenal specs. Both audio and video. That's true. So,
mm.
yeah.
Um, there's this I've forgotten the real name, but it's like Microsoft Teams certificated hardware. Uh,
Yeah.
why is this important, and what does it mean? Makes it really an impact?
Yeah, I mean, team certified hardware is there's lots of categories for that, right? There's team certified cameras, both for conference rooms and for personal use cases, team certified headsets, meeting rooms, meeting room peripherals, lots and lots of different categories. And so the idea behind all of that is that Microsoft has developed a certification program that is very rigorous, right? It's not like a pay to play situation. You don't show up as a manufacturer and say, I'm paying Microsoft this much to be evaluated and I'm checking a few boxes and now I've achieved certification. Microsoft actually goes through a very in-depth testing process alongside its software in various scenarios where they actually do collaboration in different use cases with its engineering team. It is robust. It is grueling to go through as an engineering manufacturing company that is making a product. It's a high bar to have to meet the certification checklist for the category you're trying to get certified in. And beyond that, when it comes to room systems, you can't just get certified for room systems. You're certified for a specific size room. So if you come out with a smaller bar, Microsoft's not going to say we certify that bar for a boardroom that's 20 people. It needs to be certified to meet different sizes, rooms, and scenarios. So that's what it means, right? To be certified is that a you are meeting a certain manufacturing benchmark. You're ensuring that certain features and capabilities are present so that they work with Microsoft's design. One example would be headsets, right? On a headset, Microsoft wants you to have that Teams button because
Mm,
that Teams button is meant to do a certain function within the Microsoft Teams app. I push the button on my headset and boom, this thing happens in my meeting or on my call. That's a requirement, right, for headsets. There was various other Bluetooth requirements that had to be met before as well. So there's checking those boxes, but then there's also actually going through testing
yeah,
of quality, making sure you're reaching certain quality benchmarks. The video comes across a certain way because Microsoft doesn't want a device to be a certified device and then someone plugs it in and the video quality is grainy or the audio quality sounds like a tin can. That's not, they want to make sure that you are actually getting a high quality experience. So that's the importance of being a certified team solution. Can you plug in non certified solutions and use them with Teams meetings? And yes, you can. Microsoft is not going to support that scenario. So if you go to Microsoft and say, "Hey, we're having a Teams meeting, but the audio is terrible. Please help us fix that." One of the first things they're going to check is, are you using a Teams certified device for your audio? If you are not, that is not a supported scenario from Microsoft's viewpoint. So support is the other angle where certification matters. You want to get support from Microsoft? Make sure you're using a certified solution in that space.
mm. Yeah, I think a little bit uh, when I am the buyer in the company for hardware or something else. I'm I'm the meeting room. I don't know if this is a real job, meeting room specialist. I don't know. Um, I have invest by some from your competitors, Elgato. I have bought all these. I don't know these sound waves for the wall, and
Yeah.
there's so much for you can do for acoustic and I am yeah I think a little bit audiophile. Bought for 100,000 euros some loudspeakers. It's other buy a car. I bought it, but I do this. Okay, I'm stupid. But yeah, um, where should they plan or when started planning meeting rooms? What roles uh play all these things in good acoustic, and what can hardware do uh, to make it better or software, and
Yeah.
how they evaluate it. I think they cannot buy all the stuff and send it back.
Yeah, no, exactly. I mean, it's you're starting to make big decisions and big investments at that point. But you're always gonna, and usually you're gonna end up as a meeting room specialist for an organization. You're a lot of times, especially if you're building standards for a lot of rooms across a global organization, even if it's not global, it's a national organization. You've got dozens of locations. We're talking dozens of rooms, hundreds of rooms. You need to build standards, right? And so you're going to end up working with an integrator, probably at least a consultant that's going to come in and take a look at some of the pain points, take a look at some of the challenging spaces, take a look at what you might need to ensure that those rooms are you're dealing with the painful acoustics of those rooms, glass walls, or just other things that are going to make the room challenging. And you're going to at that point be able to say, look, we're going to rule out these types of audio solutions. You need to focus in this direction. Um, and that, but a lot of that comes down to as well just the type of hardware that you're picking, and hardware and software combination, because like I mentioned earlier, that's all what you're asking is about the challenging spaces, not the simple easy to do spaces. You're asking about challenging spaces. How do you build standards around that? And like I mentioned before when talking about MXA, that's where a lot of our partners out in the ecosystem that they also have competing solutions, but for years they have turned to Shure when they needed to build rooms for their customers where it was a little bit different of a room. It was bigger, it was more challenging, it was more difficult to solve for. The acoustics were painful to solve for. They said we can't do it with our regular mics and speakers. We need next level. We need the best in audio. Sure, we need you to come in with your DSP capabilities, with all the different audio capabilities that has DSP built in. We need you to be able to take the reverberant rooms and deverb them at the device level, at the software level. We need you to be able to take the echoey noises that we can't get out of our rinse and repeat meeting room systems. We need you to help us eradicate that from these problematic spaces, these challenging spaces. And so that's where they've turned to Shure as a specialty solution for a number of years. The great news for end customers is that, now they don't have to look at that as a two vendor solution. They don't have to look at that and say, well, I'm getting this vendor because they have meeting rooms, but now I also have a different logo, sure, because of the audio. I guess it's what I have to do because there's no better solution. Now they can look at it and say, oh, Shure has native meeting rooms, certified rooms. We can use them for the room and the complex audio, clean up all the painful audio solutions, and have a truly everything under one roof solution. That's powerful, right? That's a huge message. But at the end of the day, a lot of those room specialists are going to turn to an integrator and a consultant to help guide them through those processes, because some rooms require extra treatment, right? Some rooms you're going to want to say, hey, the audio equipment is amazing, but let's put some of these these sound absorbing panels on the wall. Let's do some other things, And so there, furniture is another consideration. How does the furniture work with the equipment you're putting in the room? There's a lot of special considerations that you have to take into effect. So, um, have a good integrator, have a good consultant you're working with, and of course, make sure you're choosing a company that is known for solving those types of problems acoustically.
Yeah, I will be true. I'll buy it because it looks cool with these wall acoustic panels.
Yeah, it does.
But
Yeah.
we have, I don't know. It's a for me, it's a really new topic. I don't know. It's a uh, new topic, but comes we next. It's what is and why it's important.
Yeah, sure. So Comes Be Next is a led community graded conference, right? And it was, I think, 8, 9 years ago. We just finished up the, I think, eighth show in May, early May. But it was really born from the idea of every Ignite, every Microsoft Ignite that I went to, I would come off of that Ignite. I thought it was so cool, so fun, and I'd get on Twitter and I'd see all the other Microsoft MVPs from the Skype for Business and Microsoft Teams and Link Space. They would all get on and they'd be like, "Yeah, Ignite was great. It was good to see all my friends again," and blah blah blah. But man, I really miss Link Conference. I really miss where we had a conference from Microsoft that was just focused on Link, on
Mm,
the area that we care about. Because Ignite is it was Link, it was Skype for Business, it was also Exchange, it was SharePoint, it
mm,
was Azure, it was everything, which means that's a lot of content to have to sort through if you are a attendee and you only care about UC. That's a lot of expo floor vendors to have to sort through if you only want to see the UC vendors. And so I thought I never got to go to Leap Conference, so I had a little bit of FOMO, right? A little bit of missing out there. And I was like, how cool would it be to have a community built conference by the
mm,
community for the community that did that, that tried to bring that back to life since Microsoft is no longer doing that. And so I talked to a few other MVPs and we formed a small organizer group, Adam Ball, Pat Richard, Jonathan McKinney, and we founded Comms vNext, and we founded it with the idea we'll do a one day event out in Denver just to see if people would come, if people would fly in across the US, if people would sponsor it, right, and make it a success.
mm,
And it was a very good success. So the next year and every year after, we continued to grow it. We made it a 2-day conference out in Denver. You have, 3, 4 tracks running at the same time. Speakers come in from across the globe. We have people attending from all over North America. And we've extended beyond just the Microsoft Teams world into, of course, Copilot, a little bit of Power Apps, and a little bit of SharePoint, because the Teams world really blended all that stuff together. But with the focus still being unified communications. So that when you walk around on the expo floor, every sponsor there, they all do something related to unified communications. Every person, attendee that's there, they're going to be related to your job. So you have something in common with everybody to strike up a conversation. So it's smaller, it's more unique, it's more niche. And that's what we loved about it. That's what everybody that keeps going loves about it. Um, and after this last event, I made the very difficult decision after a lot of thought to actually step away from the event as an organizer. So I am proud to have been a founder and organizer for all these years. But I left the organizing after this last year. I left it in the hands of the other three, and said, I'm stepping away as an organizer and I'm going to put all the time that I'm going to recover from all the organizing I did. I'm going to refocus my efforts back on my YouTube channel and back on video creating. So I'm kind of taking a content creator shift back toward video, and it was a good run. It was a lot of fun. I look forward to attending Comms Next as a attendee in the future, maybe even as a speaker. But it was an amazing run organizing it. I'm super proud to have founded it with that group. They're an amazing group of guys, and I look forward to what they're going to do in the future.
Yeah, so then thank you so much for joining me today, Josh. This was really great. I hope we have I have so much more questions, but we are running out of time, so I hope we can do another
We good,
podcast.
right? Yeah, yeah.
Um, yeah, this was awesome. Thank you so much. I've learned a lot, and yeah, have a great day. And yeah, something for the listeners. All the links from Josh are on the MC65 podcast episode. We have it in the show notes. And yeah, um, great. Thank you. And I think the people out can have learn a lot. And it's a topic not everybody talks about. So that's really interesting. Thank you.
Thank you, Amerigo, for inviting me, letting you have the microphone, the chance to be able to tell the story a little bit. And this was a pleasure. Hopefully, we'll get to do it again one day.